Stay safe, I'm Uncle Ivan. Today is October 3rd, and I'll bring you the latest Christian news from the past month. On September 9th, before the Legislative Council resumed its second reading of the registration of same-sex partnerships bill, the Hong Kong Baptist Convention issued an urgent prayer call to its 112 churches and approximately 100,000 Christians. The call for prayer emphasized upholding traditional marriage values for the registration of same-sex partnerships bill, which would be voted on by the Legislative Council on September 10th. This action is significant in that it demonstrates the unity of Hong Kong's Protestant community on moral issues, upholding the biblical view of marriage in the face of social change. This action could influence the outcome of the legislation and strengthen the Christian voice in public affairs. Pastor Tong Wingman, chairman of the convention, led the initiative, expressing concern that if the bill were passed, it would be tantamount to recognizing same-sex civil partnerships, deviating from biblical teachings and impacting the education and social culture of families and children. The notice urged members to pray for legislators to reject any alternative form of same-sex registration. This reflected widespread opposition, including nearly 50 Christian organizations jointly opposing the bill to defend the value of the nuclear family and the close relationship authorization alternative proposed by the Mingguang Society, which balances traditional marriage with individual rights without recognizing same-sex partnerships. The region involved, including the Hong Kong Baptist Convention and other Christian groups, highlights the role of new churches in influencing policy, promoting religious freedom, and fostering social cohesion. Prayer points include asking God to guide legislators in rejecting the bill, empowering leaders like Pastor Tong Wingman to stand firm, interceding for wisdom in the Christian community's participation in public dialogue, and praying for unity and witness in churches as they navigate challenging times. Overall, this is an example of faith in action, inviting believers to join in prayer and advocacy. Furthermore, it could have an impact on other parts of Asia, amplifying the Christian voice on marriage. Prayers also include prayers for the affected families, ensuring that their faith is passed down to the next generation, for the allocation of resources to support advocacy efforts, and for the protection of religious freedom, allowing such actions to proceed freely. This news has had a profound impact on Hong Kong Christianity, strengthening its mission and compassion. The bill was ultimately defeated by a vote of 71 to 14. In late September 2025, Super Typhoon Ragasa severely damaged the Philippines and Taiwan, affecting Hong Kong, Macau, and southern China. Multiple Christian aid/mission accounts released prayer messages and appeals for prayer for the devastating humanitarian crisis it caused. Dubbed the Storm King, the typhoon killed 17 people in Taiwan and injured at least 90 in Hong Kong, forcing the cancellation of over 700 flights, causing mass evacuations, and disrupting infrastructure and livelihoods in several Southeast Asian countries, including southwestern China, Vietnam, Laos, and the Philippines. The prayer appeals noted that while commemorating the International Day of Peace, September 21st, the world remains rife with war, violence, and hostility, emphasizing the need for prayer for those affected by natural disasters, particularly Hong Kong, and for those suffering from displacement amidst the chaos. This prayer call not only addresses natural disasters but also reminds believers that amidst the chaos of this world, our primary loyalty is to the King in heaven and to care for all who share our common destiny, humanity, and all creation. On September 30th, the U.S. Congress introduced the Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025, led by Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz. The bill aims to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC, due to its systematic violations of religious freedom. This move is significant because it responds to years of calls, heightens international awareness of religious persecution, potentially leads to sanctions, improves the situation of Christians in Nigeria, and impacts global religious freedom advocacy. The bill targets Nigerian federal officials, governors, judges, and law enforcement officers for actions over a 10-year period that promote blasphemy laws or condone terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and the West African branch of ISIS. The bill was forwarded to the Foreign Affairs Committee on September 9th for its second reading. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, which has advocated for this designation since 2009, cited a failure of government prevention by its chair, Dickey Hartzler, as a failure of government prevention. Katie Roberts, senior policy analyst at the Southern Baptist Convention's Ethics and AMP, Religious Liberty Commission, ERLC, criticized the 2021 decision to remove the CPC designation as a mistake, highlighting the escalation of violence. In the first 7 months of 2025, 7,087 Christians were killed and 7,800 kidnapped in Nigeria, ranking 7th on the World Watch list. Since 2000, approximately 62,000 Christians have lost their lives for their faith. Scott Bauer, CEO of Christian Solidarity Worldwide, CSW, described the violence in central Nigeria as characterized by mass atrocity crimes. The passage of the bill, which will impose financial sanctions, will put pressure on the Nigerian government and highlight the role of Protestant organizations in promoting justice. Prayer points include interceding for the safety of Christians in Nigeria, asking God to protect and provide for them, for a smooth review by the U.S. Congress and effective measures to protect freedom, for the Nigerian government to stop the violence and safeguard rights, and for God to lead USCIRF, ERLC, and CSW to speak out and promote unity among churches in support of those suffering persecution. This news has a profound impact on the Christian world, strengthening unity and mission. Furthermore, it may prompt international intervention to improve the situation. Prayers also include healing for victims, dialogue with leaders, and global awareness, raising awareness and support for persecuted Christians. On September 30th, David Hill, a resident of Plymouth, Devon, England, was a career criminal orchestrating multi-million-pound drug trafficking. He was imprisoned numerous times throughout his teens and 20s, participating in large-scale drug trafficking and European jewelry store robberies, and even instigating the 1986 Swilly riots. However, on a ferry journey from France to Plymouth, he experienced a dramatic encounter with God that radically changed the course of his life. This transformation is significant in that it demonstrates the transformative power of the gospel, particularly for those with criminal backgrounds, offering hope and impacting prison ministries and community healing in the UK. While listening to a fellow passenger share biblical truths on the ferry, Hill heard a voice in his head asking whether he would rather know God or continue in crime. He immediately decided to follow Christ, ended his drug-dealing career, was baptized and joined the Plymouth Christian Center. He and his wife, Lydia, completed their training and started a recycled flooring carpentry business to support their family. He currently shares his testimony in prisons, churches, and communities across the Southwest. He is a member of Prison Fellowship, has spoken at Exeter Prison, and assists with worship and guitar at Morris Baptist Church in Plymouth. His testimony inspired the album Embrace and the book The Still Small Voice, which quote Matthew 16 verse 26 to emphasize the value of life and help those suffering. This news has had a profound impact on the British Christian community, strengthening its role in evangelism and social transformation, particularly in rebuilding families and children. Prayers include continued blessings and strengthening the ministry of David Hill and his family, increased support for the Plymouth Christian Center and Morris Baptist Church, particularly in prison fellowship and community outreach, that the gospel be heard and lives transformed for prisoners in the UK, and that this testimony will inspire more churches to engage in social care. Overall, this is a testimony of God's grace that invites global support. Furthermore, it may inspire other countries to expand their transformational ministries. Prayers also include healing for the victims, fostering dialogue for leaders, and global awareness to raise more people to support Christians in their transformation. This news strengthens unity and mission. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, By prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7, through these news stories, we see God's work around the world, from Hong Kong believers responding to moral challenges with prayer, demonstrating faith and unity, to the typhoons in the Philippines and Taiwan, where Christians worldwide supported one another through intercessory prayer, to the international community speaking out for persecuted Christians in Nigeria, to the life of a former criminal in the UK whose life was completely transformed by the gospel. All of this reminds us that in these uncertain times, let us follow the example of these believers and seek God's protection and guidance through prayer. No matter what challenges we face, we can find peace through prayer because our God is in control. May we all serve faithfully in our respective roles, spreading the gospel to the ends of the earth until the Lord returns. If you'd like to learn more about today's news or other content, please leave a comment below. Thank you for your support. I hope you will subscribe, enable notifications, and share to support the continuation of this channel. To learn more, you can also visit my Patreon. Let us learn about God, reflect on faith, and live out Christ together.